You're listening to Plants and Politics with Gina Bonanno-Lemos. If you're ready to hear the truth about both sides of the aisle, what's really going on in America, and how big money interests prevent change to keep you sick, broke, and desperate, then play on. Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. This is Gina. So I have a story that's, I think, going to really piss you off because I know that it pissed me off. In 1995, the former owner of the New York Post magazine pleaded guilty to a multitude of crimes, and he went to prison for 18 years as a result of those crimes. One of the crimes for which he went to prison was running a Ponzi scheme. He siphoned millions of dollars off of companies rather than paying investors. So these are financial crimes. This man's name is Steven Hoffenberg. And this is where it gets really interesting and it's going to piss you off. So Hoffenberg was also Jeffrey Epstein's former boss and his accomplice in these crimes. And he contends that Epstein's estate is actually worth more than $100 billion. This is a big question because authorities currently estimate that Jeffrey Epstein's estate is approximately worth $635 million rather than in the billions. And this is going to directly affect Epstein's alleged victims and how much compensation they get. But according to Hoffenberg, who some refer to as Epstein's mentor, he and Epstein were laundering $2.5 billion every single year through his company, which was called Towers Financial. Hoffenberg said that this took place in the 80s and the 90s, and that the $2.5 billion, listen to this, the $2.5 billion accounted for only a portion of the money that they were laundering at that time. So they had, in addition to this Towers Financial, which was Hoffenberg's company, they had additional money laundering schemes that were taking place concurrently. It's obscene the amount of money that these people were making by cheating, by lying, by stealing. And he alleges that it wasn't just Epstein. He says that it was he, Epstein, and Maxwell who worked together for over 20 years and made over $100 billion. And he believes that this money may be stowed in offshore accounts, which is being hidden from victims and the authorities. So Hoffenberg said, quote, "The billions are in accounts all around the world that have not been exposed. There's been a way to store it and obstruct people finding out. The FBI's role is to investigate, but they have not done forensic auditing on Ghislaine, Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein's financial crimes and understand the methods used by them. They haven't got near to this. That's not their purpose." So Hoffenberg, who's now a born-again Christian, is apparently assisting prosecutors in the multiple cases brought against Epstein. And he also said, quote, "Billions are hidden. I can tell you that Jeffrey Epstein was very involved in Towers Financial. He raised $1 billion on Wall Street and did $1.5 billion in collections. That's $2.5 billion a year in financial crimes. Maxwell and Epstein were involved in over $3 billion of crimes a year in other businesses. This is over 20 years of financial manipulation of at least $5.5 billion a year. That's an enormous amount of money. It's a tragedy for the victims, the girls, the financial victims, the blackmailed couple. This is a terrible story. There's a long list of people that are the bad guys that have to be brought to justice." So it appears that he's trying to do the right thing. He told NPR, quote, "I'm the first one in the line to assist the victims. At 74, I'd like to go to the pearly gates assisting the victims." And here's the biggest part that's going to piss you off. Hoffenberg said that he told federal prosecutors about Epstein's role in this Ponzi scheme, and he appears truly perplexed by the fact that Epstein escaped any and all accountability. So he said, quote, There's no question that I told them. It makes no sense. Like his whole life makes sense. His death makes no sense. So why didn't Epstein go to prison back then? This was in the 90s. This was at the peak, from what I can gather from what everyone is reporting, when he and Ghislaine Maxwell were recruiting these young girls, bringing them in and making them into essentially sex slaves. So this was right at that same time. And here's where it gets even more interesting. NPR reached out to the federal prosecutor on the case, a man by the name of Dan Nardello, to ask why Epstein was given a pass. Nardello declined to comment. He said they don't comment on cases. So then they reached out and they spoke with a prosecutor on the case by the name of Amy Millard, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She was apparently assigned to the case during the sentencing phase, so she came in a little bit late in the whole process. So I get that she may not have been completely up to speed on every single detail, but her comments to NPR seem like just a deflection. And she contradicts herself too and provides very non-answer answers. So first she told NPR that she remembered very little from the case since it was 25 years ago. Then she said that she remembers Hoffenberg as a, quote, less than trustworthy witness. She told NPR, quote, I remember that at the point that I met him and had any dealings with, I did not believe he was credible in his statements. I remember that he was extraordinarily arrogant, not taking responsibility for what he had done, and that there were a huge number of victims who were hurt by his behavior. So she remembers all of that. She remembers Hoffenberg's attitude, but she doesn't remember why they declined to prosecute his alleged co-conspirator and partner in crime. And what the hell does Hoffenberg's lack of remorse have to do with Epstein taking part in these crimes and the prosecutor's failure to charge him? One has nothing to do with the other. It was so clear in reading these articles and her comments that she was just trying to avoid the topic of Epstein and deflect and redirect to Hoffenberg. I mean, imagine how many children, how many young girls with their entire lives ahead of them would have been spared the depravity of these monsters if these prosecutors had just done their jobs. It's unreal how much this man got away with, how much shit was swept under the rug. Oh my God, unbelievable. How many people allowed these girls to just be ravaged and destroyed for what? For money? So if possible, I think all of this needs to be re-examined, and every last one of these people, every last one of these quote unquote investigators needs to be investigated themselves to discover if suddenly they came into money or if they were coerced or threatened in some way. At least then, if we know that they were threatened, like if they had their lives threatened or their families threatened, maybe it would be understandable. But I would bet money, I would bet my own money that it was about money, that it was about them being paid off to look the other way. Because it makes no sense why this man spent 18 years in prison while Jeffrey Epstein was out there allegedly violating and destroying children's lives, children as young as 12 years old, preying upon them and ruining them. It's unbelievable. So anyway, guys, I'm going to keep digging, keep looking at things. And as I hear more, I will report back. As always, like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.